it's been 30 years now since President Reagan was shot outside the Washington Hilton Hotel. Now the man who pulled the trigger, John Hinckley Jr., may be about to gain more unsupervised time away from the mental hospital where he's been confined. In 2009, the federal court granted Hinckley 12 10-day visits to his mother's home in Virginia each month, but now St. Elizabeth Hospital is asking the court to give Hinckley extended visits home, 2 17-day visits and 6 24-day visits, before eventually allowing the mental hospital to decide whether or not Hinckley can live indefinitely with his mother. Joining me right now to talk more about whether or not Hinckley should be released is Ronald Reagan Jr., the son of President Reagan, and the author of a great book, My Father at 100. There it is. Ron, you're as close to this as possible besides your mother and sister and another brother. What do you make of this possibility that this guy might get sprung?
Well, you know, I'm the last person on earth to do any favors for Mr. Hinckley, of course, but I try and look at this rationally. And when I do, I keep coming back to 3 things. Number 1, the crime that he committed, attempting to assassinate the president, is not just any other crime. It's not just assault with a deadly weapon. This is the attempted decapitation of the United States government. It is a direct assault on our democracy. And as such, it needs to be treated very seriously, and I think some deterrent effect is in order here. Second, as regards Mr. Hinckley himself, I'm no psychologist, but it appears that he has a narcissistic personality disorder on top of whatever other psychological difficulties he might have. Narcissistic personality disorder means a grandiose sense of entitlement and an almost total lack of empathy for other human beings. In other words, he's a sociopath. Number 3, this is all aimed at getting him out, as you pointed out, leaving him free to wander, unsupervised around the country. I don't much care if he gets to visit his mother and go to movies and things like that, but the idea of leaving a guy who did what he did and who has the psychological profile that he has unsupervised in society strikes me as monumentally unwise.
Well, he also strikes me as a liar on top of everything else, which is very important to try to talk about if he's going to get any better shape mentally in his life, because apparently he just lies continually. For example, you mentioned let him go to the movies. Well, here it is. Let's get his lawyer to make his case, and we'll get over that. Hinckley's lawyer says Hinckley is not, his lawyer says he's not a threat. In an opening statement, to the court, attorney Barry Levine said, quote, although he is flawed, he's fundamentally decent. This man is not dangerous. The evidence shows he is not dangerous. Well, the federal prosecutors have made the point. They did let him go to the movies one time with his mother, and it turns out he went to sort of the place where you pay to go in, had a chat for the cameras, and then scooted over to a Barnes & Noble so he could look up books on assassinations, including assassination of your dad, to sort of glory in his own name ID.
That's right. His mother drops him off at the ticket office. She drives off. He makes a beeline to the bookstore, heads right to the section on political assassinations to look up his day of infamy. I don't know what was on his mind, but that's not an encouraging sign.
And the reason it isn't like he was one of these political guys like Sirhan who had a Palestinian cause or whatever. He did it to impress a movie actress whose name I refuse to use here. And he did it out of, just as you say, narcissism. It seems to me this guy likes to get his name out there. He'd like to do it again.
Yes. What got him the most attention in life? Trying to kill the President of the United States. Now, it may be that while he's with his mother, she's a controlling influence on him, but she's elderly. What happens if 86. They let him go, and she passes away, and he's all out there on his own, and somehow he gets insulted or aggrieved, and his sense of entitlement kicks in, and he decides that he needs to take matters into his own hands. Well, we know what happens when that occurs, or at least we know what happened in the past. So again, leaving him unsupervised is really unwise. Now, we can say that the Secret Service keeps an eye on him. That's how we found out about his little jaunt to the bookstore. They were watching him undercover there. But I can tell you from experience, it is not impossible to evade a Secret Service detail.
Yes, well, thank you for that information from the inside, but I got to tell you, I'm sure it was a positive experience for you. But this guy went to the point of memorizing the screenplay so he could convince the authorities that he had gone to the movies. He's got a criminal mind. It's pretty scary. Ron Reagan, thank you for coming on. I know it's a deeply emotional thing with you. When we return, as it should be.